All right, looks like we are live, and I am back from North Carolina Comic Con. I was there last week with Timothy Lim, Mark Pellegrini, the men behind Black Ops Volume 6 and Omnibus 2 campaign. I was also there with Eric Canetti of Arc Athena, Book 4, out now. I was not out there with Sven Stoffels. I think I pronounced his last name correctly. If not, I apologize, Sven. Sven was in the Netherlands, but he has a campaign out, Butch Killian 1. For our first campaign, he's raised over $10,000, 247 backers with 21 days to go. Not too shabby, Sven, especially in this economic environment. So, yeah, I figured I'd come back, talk about the show, and let people know how it went. And then we'll just talk about a few things. Vivek Ramaswamy, could talk about him, talk about Ronna McDaniel, talk about the GOP, talk about some comic book stuff. There's all sorts of comic stuff in the news. Sometimes people ask me about stuff and it's a minefield. But then I got to think about it and like, do I want to cover this? Do I want to actually talk about Alpha Core and Eric July? And if I do, how do I talk about it? Well, I'll try and talk about something positive. From my point of view, something that doesn't needlessly start bizarreness. So I figure if I stick to the right thing in terms of logistics and delivery and doing something right, then I can do that. But if you think I'm just gonna throw personal attacks or something, then I'm not gonna do that. But there are some very interesting things from a business point of view about what Eric July is doing. So I figure I could touch on that and stuff. So, all right, let's go to North Carolina Comic Con and just a few thoughts on that with Tim and Mark. So, Story Time with Friends is here. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. All right, so this was my immediate after action review, although there's a lot to say. I wrote North Carolina after action review. One of the things that I find interesting about hitting the road with the iconic comics guys is the creative spitballing that takes place before and after crowds arrive. You cannot duplicate the quality of ideas that organically spring forth while breaking bread with writers and artists after a long day of pitching stories to potential readers. I'm not anti-tech, or I'm not saying you can't have cool ideas over Zoom calls, but there does seem to be something different in the air when it all happens over dinner after a hard day's work. So, yeah, that's one of the things that I found very interesting about shows is you spend a lot of time with these guys and you're eating breakfast with them in the hotel lobby and you're between customers talking about stuff, and then afterwards going to Indian restaurants, going to Peruvian restaurants, going to steakhouses, talking shop, talking about kind of comics and things that are going to happen in 2024, things that we would like to see happen, how to improve upon certain things, how to make things more efficient for the readers, and even how to bring in potential readers, how to cast a wider net, all that sort of stuff. And it's one of those things where you can email people back and forth. You could have phone calls. You could have little private streams where you discuss stuff. But I have found that there's a certain sort of camaraderie, and there's just something different about the ideas that form when you're physically present with somebody and you're talking about stuff. And so this year, I gotta do the mileage, but I'm pretty sure between air miles and driving with Matt Weldon and others, I've racked up thousands of miles going from Reno to Austin to Lubbock, from Reno to Austin to for Bell County Comic Con, down to Arkansas, Little Rock, driving north with Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini. flying to Portland, meeting up with Eric Canetti, going to Rose City Comic-Con, and then obviously flying literally across the country from the Pacific time zone to the East Coast for North Carolina Comic-Con and back. Literally thousands of miles and many, many, many hours talking comics and talking about business with all these guys. And I think those are the things that pay off in ways that maybe if you're just trying to quote unquote network with people online, you're just DMing them here or there. It's not the same. So I see a lot of value in traveling and meeting people face to face. In terms of the show itself, little things of note. Let's see if I could bring up some show pictures here. That's the dinner. All right, so here's a picture of Eric Canetti looking like a philosopher. He's given the pitch. There's me looking a little bit ridiculous. So, but obviously a potential reader. I think this guy actually picked up the books, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to disclose personal information about the guy, but I had a good conversation with him, and he picked up, I believe, Demon's Match and Black Tide. And anyways, and then Mark doing his thing as well. Okay, so long story short, Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini were selling plushy capybaras hand over fist. I was joking with Eric Canetti. Note to self, write capybara into Soul Finder and make plushie and bring to show. I'm not going to do that. That would be pretty hard for me to figure out how to do that. Although I was thinking Matt Weldon has made the Soul Finder cats, and you can make a Soul Finder father redder cat into a plushie. I would be open to that. But that's low on the totem pole of things to do. Anyway, Tim and Mark were selling capybaras like mad. Capybaras are incredibly popular. And my conspiracy theory is that the capybara craze started with Tim and Mark, because before Badger came out, I never saw any sort of capybara stuff on Instagram, on Twitter. I know there's stuff on TikTok. None of that. I never saw it. And then once Badger stuff started getting out there, then it was like a capybara explosion all over the place. So again, that's my tinfoil Common America hat on. But I'm telling you, I never saw capybara stuff until they were putting Badger gifts and little Badger shorts and stuff out into the world. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a coincidence, or maybe just everything came together perfectly. But the point is they sell a lot of merchandise at shows. I watched it myself. It was crazy. Eric Canetti is recognized by a lot of people. And I mean, it goes without saying that he's a very talented individual, but a lot of people know who he is, and they will search him out because of his resume. And that is something that is very interesting to see firsthand. I've never been, so obviously being a writer, I've gravitated more towards writers and really don't know too much about the artists unless they were working on Spider-Man or Iron Man or Daredevil. I didn't really like even when I was reading the books as a kid, I didn't really know too much about the artists. I just liked reading the books and I liked the stories. I know that sounds weird, but maybe that's why I became a writer or whatever. But to see people like actively search him out, like, oh, Eric Canetti, I heard you were going to be here. And can I bring my stuff from years ago that you did, blah, blah, blah. So that's very cool to see. And what was also cool was there was a guy who drove 45 minutes to get to the show. And he was introduced to Soul Finder by a Catholic priest. And the priest used to be on social media, but then he got completely sick of social media and got off. But anyway, it was in college, and the priest introduced him to Soul Finder and Iconic Comics. And I don't even know who the priest was. I probably should have asked, like, who is the priest? I got to find this guy. Did not think to do that. But anyway, he got 2 rosaries, not at the show. He's like, I bought 2 of the rosaries and I have all of the books. And he basically had everything. But luckily, I brought Soul Finder bags to the show. I brought Soul Finder pins and I brought a couple of tumblers. And I gave him a tumbler for free. And then I think I gave him a bag for free since he drove 45 minutes to get there and share that story. So stuff like that, to me, makes the shows completely worthwhile, because those are people, I mean, he's already bought everything, but if you have a good interaction with somebody that's new to your work, or they've purchased it in the past and they're meeting you for the first time, that's somebody that, unless you do something completely ridiculous, they're probably going to continue to buy all the stuff that you put out, and they're going to search, go to the website, see if anything's new, and continue to buy. So again, that's why I like going to these shows, because pretty much at every show I meet somebody who tells me an interesting story about how they were introduced to iconic comics. Mr. Mill, thanks for tuning in, appreciate it. Now, I mentioned the Rippaverse stuff initially at the start of the stream. I will also say there was some guy that came up to me at the show and he was wearing a Rippaverse hat, and he bought Soul Finder. He bought Demon's Match for sure, and he may have purchased Black Tide. I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyway, dude in a Rippaverse hat comes up, buys Soul Finder, Demon's Match. So sometimes when people want me to weigh in on all these things, and they want me to criticize this or criticize that or whatever, it's like, first of all, it's not really my place for the most part. There's a very limited range of things that I feel like it's appropriate for me to talk about. And if I haven't read the person's book, I really can't be commenting on the quality because I literally haven't read it. So that's not a good idea. But to me, it's like, okay, well, one of the reasons why you don't see me going off on all sorts of stuff and creators is because I don't want to alienate my own readers, and I don't want to alienate potential readers. So if I was just flying off the handle on every single weirdo drama explosion on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, I would be alienating potential readers, and I don't want to do that. So if I say something, there needs to be a serious meaning behind why I'm talking about it. So the only thing that I will say about the Rippaverse stuff is that the guy's getting books out. Again, I don't know. I haven't read the books. I don't know anything about the actual like stories, like the craft of storytelling. But I do know that within a very short amount of time, he's put out multiple books that are essentially graphic novel length, and he's spending a lot of money to get them out. He's spending money on animation. He's hiring writers and artists. And this is an individual with 0 years in the industry. And I think he got the first 2 volumes of his book out that are over 72 pages. I think that maybe like 90 something. I don't know. I don't know the exact page number. I know it's a lot. So, I mean, whether you like him or not, or whether you like his stories or not, he's making people that talk a big game look silly in terms of the logistics and fulfillment and distribution of his books. So from a purely logistical point of view, I feel like that is something that you should give him an attaboy for, because there's a lot of people trying to do what he wants to do, and they have failed over and over and over again, or they have severely underperformed. So that's probably why there's some people that really don't like him, is because he actually fulfills his books in a timely manner. So that's interesting. Oh, I guess we'll talk about this. If you're interested in a Matt Weldon fix, the Florida Man 2 campaign is live. I was going through it when it went live, and it came up in my feed. I did think this was a kind of an interesting point right here. Artist Matthew Weldon. Now, he penciled the books. Somebody else inked it. As far as I know, that's what from my brief conversation with Matt about it, is somebody else is inking, and I think it says whoever it is somewhere on the page. I don't know. Artist Matt Weldon thrilled Florida Mans with his series of variant covers for Mike Barron's Florida Man hit limited series at American Mythology, but is probably best known for his work on Antarctic Press comic series like Punchline and Tomorrow Girl. Oh, interesting. So to me, I thought that was kind of interesting because it's like, how do you say, I really want Matt Weldon's art, but I really, really, really don't want to talk about Iconic Comics and Soul Finder? Well, I'm just not going to talk about Iconic Comics and Soul Finder. So, but yeah, check out Matt's work on Punchline and Tomorrow Girl. Obviously, Matt's art is quality stuff. But yeah, very interesting. Very interesting omission there. But yeah, Matt Weldon does a lot of really good work for Iconic Comics, and you could catch his work in Black Hops Volume 6 and Omnibus 2, and you can catch his work in Soul Finder, and you can catch his work in Soul Finder Volume 4 that's coming up as well. So, all right, let's see. We already mentioned Butch Killigan, so check out Sven's book there. We could talk about this guy if you want. This is the Trump judge up in New York. We'll get to this guy. I don't. This is the election stuff. Like, you don't want to get too into the personal stuff, but this is a weird dude. If you start looking into this guy, there's something really off about him. Like, it's serious creeper vibes for the longest time. And then it came out that he runs some high school reunion website, and he's posting shirtless pictures of himself, sort of like Geraldo Rivera or whatever he was doing back in the day, and Anthony Weiner, and all these guys that are like 50 plus, 60 plus, 65, 70 years old, and they're taking off their shirts and they're posing. Like, there's always something a little weird with them. Like, you get a vibe, like, you know, it turns out, you know, again, Anthony Weiner, you can just look into Anthony Weiner and what he's doing. And Geraldo is pretty freaky and weird too. There's just something very strange. So, very interesting. But we'll get to that. Let's see. Talked about Iconic Comics. Let's see. Vivek. I guess we could talk about Vivek now. Let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. This was very interesting. So, I guess we'll just play this and we'll just talk about it. So here we go.
Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer to the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean,
all right, so a lot of people are really upset that he started talking about this. He started talking about all the recent, the elections, both anything recent and going back even to 2016.
Since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018.
Sorry, 2017.
2020. 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should.
Okay, so people are upset that he would criticize the Republican National Committee chairwoman and her performance in terms of getting out the vote and getting Republicans elected. To me, the job of the president or someone, the future president or whatever, is to do right by the American people. The job of that individual is not to shield the ego or the feelings of the RNC. So to me, it is a perfectly legitimate thing to bash the underperformance and the failures of the RNC. And if he is ultimately, if he criticizes you, but he is the best man for the job, I'm not saying Vivek is, I'm just saying you have to be able to take criticism for your own failures. And if you're going to do this petty little thing where it's just like, he criticized me, so I'm not going to support him in any way, and I'm going to find ways to withhold money to make sure he doesn't get to do what he wants to do. If you're just turning it into a clique of people that validate each other's feelings, no matter what their performance is, that's a recipe for failure. And, well, we'll get into some other things soon here, but he goes on.
Be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk, we'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party.
All right, so this is another good point. VMRE, Tagia, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. So he says, why isn't Joe Rogan, why isn't Elon Musk, and all these other individuals that would make for an awesome debate and debate moderators, why aren't they doing it? How come the RNC always has to crawl on its hands and knees to NBC News and Lester Holt and these people that hate Republicans? They ask gotcha questions all the time. Everything is loaded. Everything is framed in a way where they're trying to set you up to make you look silly, or they're just wasting your time asking ridiculous things that are just irrelevant to the vast majority of American people that want serious answers to serious questions. But when you go to these debates, for the most part, the moderators are just asking moronic things meant to set Republicans up to fall on their face, to look like silly individuals. And he's like, why do we keep doing that over and over and over again? Why are we always moving to the left to try and look good to the Lester Holtz of the world and these other moderators? Again, it's a totally valid point.
You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real, or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go. Mr. Ross, this is...
All right. So again, another valid point in terms of the media covering for Democrats over and over and literally propagating lies. And for years, disseminating lies, but casting them as truths. And then eventually, years later, it comes out, oh no, that was all false. It was actually inverted. Everything that they accused Donald Trump of doing in terms of Russia and all this sort of stuff, that's literally what they were doing. It was the exact opposite. And so you see the moderator here, she's got that smile that they always get when you got them. They know this is, do you remember that guy, Peter Strzok? He's the FBI guy who was saying that they have a quote unquote insurance policy for Donald Trump. What was the insurance policy? You could go down the list. They tied up the administration for years with needless Russia investigations that again turned out to prove that he wasn't some Manchurian candidate, Russian dude or Magoo. Hillary Clinton and all of her campaign people, they essentially engineered all of the Russia stuff to make him look bad. And all the people in the intelligence community knew it, but they just started to weave this web of lies to get Donald Trump and his administration mucked up and stuck in like just dealing with all this ridiculousness. So she smiles there. She's like, you got me. Because he did get it. They know the truth. These people are gross. So Peter Strzok was the insurance guy, and he does the similar thing. They always have the little grin when they're the ones, when you get them, when they're presented with the truth, they do this little little self-satisfied, smug thing. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I got you, Donald Trump. Republicans. And she's the exact same way. They know it. They're dishonest people, but a large swath of the American population does not understand what's going on. They don't understand that these people are all activists. They don't have functioning moral compasses. Many of them, some of them are useful idiots, but many of them are just straight up ideologues and activists that will do anything. They believe that they should take down their political opponents by any means necessary. They believe that you're quote unquote deplorable. So therefore, they can roll out whatever they want in order to besmirch and sully your name and your reputation, because they only care about power. That is what they care about. So
we need accountability, because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story, and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor.
So then you have Lester Holy. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. We got to move on. Anytime a Republican candidate starts to really make a good point, and he's starting, the crowds behind him, they're cheering, they're getting around. Move along. We don't want people to actually talk about what NBC News did on NBC. We can't do that. We got to under the rug. So again, if you had a Joe Rogan, if you had Elon, and Joe Rogan historically is not even like really, he doesn't like quote unquote woke stuff and quote unquote SJW stuff. And he was even saying he would vote for Bernie years ago. But Joe Rogan would be a much better moderator than what you have here. And he would actually, whether you agree with him or not on a number of issues, would ask questions that people want the answer to. And he wouldn't get tied up in all this sort of Peter Strzok sort of, well, Donald Trump said in 2016 on April 7th, blah, blah, blah. Well, what do you have to say about that? You're like, well, it's 2023 and he was talking about immigration, and like, I don't even understand why you would be asking, but Donald Trump. So very interesting stuff. So anyway, after that, let's see, where was it? So then after the debate came out, right afterwards, it came out that Ronna McDaniel, who you can see literally right here, and there's her little finger, and like there's a video of her, and she's finger wagging him like a mom. She's upset. She's like, I can't believe you would say that about me. Why would you say that? You're not going to get a dime from me and the RNC, and you attacked us, and blah, 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 blah. So he's literally looking her in the eye, and that's her, that's him. NBC reported they had some sort of exchange, and then, very interesting, Ronna McDaniel comes out and says like, no, we didn't have any conversation. It's literally on video, dude. Why would you lie about that? So that's the thing. Why would you lie when it was literally recorded? And what does it say about an individual who will habitually lie about little things that are verifiable? There's something seriously wrong with a person who just straight up lies, gaslights you when it's on video. She could have said, you know what, Vivek and I, we have our disagreements. We had a private conversation after the debate, and that's exactly what it was, a private conversation. And if they push it, she said, you know what, it's none of your business what Vivek and I talked about. Afterwards, it was between us. So I'm not going to answer your stupid question. Moving on. That's what she could have said. That would have been an honest answer. But instead, it says, Ronna McDaniel's camp is now telling the outlet that the two had no conversation post-debate. It's a lie. So somebody that would lie about something that is in front of everybody's face and tell you, like, I literally didn't talk to this guy when everybody can see you did, there's something wrong with that person. And they think so little of you that they could lie to your face, they could gaslight you, and just move along. Why would maybe people that have voted for Republicans in the past, like yours truly, registered independent these days, maybe we're sick and tired of people that are lying to our faces over and over and over again. So these people are all soft. This is Ronna McDaniel here. Again, I don't want to get too much into it, but I spent a long time in Washington, D.C. I was there for, over a decade when you include my graduate studies and all of that. But I worked for a newspaper in Washington, D.C. I worked for a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. And I got to know this whole crowd. I went to the quote unquote black tie events where people like Ronna would go and they would, they would eat the hors d'oeuvres. They would swivel the wine around and smell it and drink it and sip it. That sort of stuff. So I know all the events that these people go to. I attended those events. I was always mentally exhausted afterwards, having to deal with individuals like this in this world. They care more about getting their injection of lip fillers or lip plumpers or all that sort of stuff. They all got the same earrings. They all got the same makeup. They all always have to have their hair done. Whatever she did to her hair probably, costs a lot of money. Like probably a good portion of like my, depending on if I'm in Nevada or Montana, mortgage or rent or however you want to say it, like a good percentage of it, like hundreds of dollars. They all have the same clothes. They're like high-end women's clothes, even though to me they just look gaudy and cheesy. They all got to make sure they got the pin on, whatever the pin is, to signal to the crowd, I'm one of you. I don't even know what this blue ribbon here is for that particular day, but they're all wearing the proper ribbons. They got the proper flags everywhere. So these are just soft, unprincipled people. They care more about fashion and fame and all of that sort of thing more than the American people. Let's see. Nelson here. I have some concerns about his lack of political experience and being Vivek has the exact kind of attitude I want from a president. Yeah. So here's the thing is I don't really care about any of these candidates because I've said before that, getting to the freaking the Trump judge guy, as long as if you can't see that what they are doing to Donald Trump with all of these court cases and going after him legally with bogus cases, how dangerous that is, how tyrannical it is. They're just making stuff up to put this guy in court and to bleed him dry, to waste his time, to suck millions of dollars out of his bank accounts, to possibly put him in jail if they could. Even though the stuff that they're charging him with is just like ticky-tack stuff, but they're quote-unquote trumping it up. Like, to me, I am going to back the person who is being persecuted in a legitimately frightening, terrifying, tyrannical way over anybody else. So to me, I don't care about the debates. It's like, and quite frankly, I do not care about Donald Trump's Twitter feed over the years. I don't care who he said mean things to. I mean, I care, but I don't care, if that makes sense, because what they are doing to him, if they will do that to a former president, if they will do that to him, what will they do to you? What will they do to me? They are showing that they will go after anybody. Again, if it was legitimate stuff, fine. But it is clear as day that they are just finding anything that they can and turning a mountain, making a mountain out of a molehill. And it's weird and scary and strange. And that is the person who I want on the ticket, because I feel like that individual should be able to confront his accusers and basically shove it down their throat. And I feel like it should be up to the American people to decide, hey, we don't like what they're doing to this guy. Even if you like, I don't really like a lot of the way he comports himself. But what he is going through when he doesn't need to do that, like he literally could have just spent the rest of his life on the golf course and just died on the golf course, but he didn't do that. So I don't know. I know a lot of people like absolutely can't stand Donald Trump. Fine. But I think that what they are doing to him is so much bigger than him that that's the person that I'm going to back. And whatever happens, happens. And yeah, I know some people get like annoyed with that, but anyway, back to Vivek. So yeah, all the things that he said were completely legitimate. And I feel like if you want to be president of the United States, you need to be able to stand up to harsh barbs about your performance. Frank, Ronna demonstrates some of the drawbacks of nepotism. Yeah, nepotism and cronyism. That's basically what the RNC is to me. And as long as you have people like Mitch McConnell in positions of power, like I want nothing to do with the Mitch McConnells of the world. I really like endless amounts of taxpayer dollars going to all sorts of nations other and not going to Americans and American problems. And a lot of it, as said before, is just a giant money laundering scheme. They send billions of dollars over there. There's no accountability for where it goes. Their kids oftentimes ends up on boards of energy companies they have no business being on. And magically they're being paid hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And all this sort of stuff. And all of these congressmen, they have, they're intimately tied to various defense contractors. And then every time there's a war and they send billions of dollars over there, the stock for the defense contractors goes up. And they just conveniently, they go into office being, fairly well-off individuals, but then they're hyper millionaires. And suddenly they're worth tens of millions of dollars in a very short amount of time. And very interesting how that goes. But anyway, people like Ronna McDaniel just remind me, it's like they've become some sort of casting call television sitcom version of the generic Republican. They're not even like real Republicans. It's just like some show on ABC or CBS or something, NBC. They're like, all right, we're looking for actors to play the generic Republican. And then this is what you get. This is exactly how they would dress. They would have the lip gloss on. They would have the filler. This is exactly how they would do their makeup. It's like they've become some sort of, the caricature became the reality. It's very strange. Brett Palmer, thanks for tuning in. So anyway, Vivek, no matter what happens to you down the line, I'm very glad that you spoke up and said the things that you did last night, because a lot of it, quite frankly, needed to be said. But like I said, why would you lie about this? Why would you say you had no conversation with him when boop, 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 boop. He's literally looking you in the eye. Eye contact, finger wag, finger wag. I mean, we could even go to this page right here. Where is it? All right. So there it is. Cuts to it. There's Ronna right there. And you see her finger went up and he's talking to her. All right. Blah, 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 blah. He's talking to her. I don't know if they're going to show anymore, but why would you lie about that? Unless you're just a liar. And if you are a liar, why are you the head of the RNC? See, he's clearly having an animated discussion. He's like, hey, blah, 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 blah. So very interesting to lie about that sort of thing. Don't get it. All right. So boop. Let's see what else we got here. Is there anything else I wanted to cover? We covered the July stuff. Iconic Comics getting the books out. There's Eric Canetti's books. Very nice. I'm not sure if there's anything else I wanted to cover. Timothy Lim. Disney theme park. This was just fun. Apparently people are pooping in line at Star Wars rides in Disney's. And I was saying that I would call them storm poopers. And then Tim and I and a few other people, Wandering Creatives and Yen, basically started coming up with poo jokes all day because you're never too old for a poop joke. Poo or poo not, there is no try. I don't know. There was a few of them. I had a good time yesterday going back with all these sort of things. So let's see. Seasoned Disney vet, be on your toes. People poop while in line for the Star Wars rides. Newbie, I'm not afraid. Seasoned Disney vet, you will be. You will be. So, all right. Let's see. Frank, Brett, all right. You're tuning in. All right. I think that's about it on my end, unless there's any. Oh, the Zelda announcement. So, apparently, the Zelda live action film is happening. And my take was basically that there is a high probability that this is going to end in disaster. My ideal Zelda film would be a near silent film. If you're going to do a live action film, and it's going to be, you're going to have a top-notch score. And for the most part, Link is never going to say a word. He might say like a couple things, maybe after he defeats Ganon or something along those lines, he says one or two things. But for the most part, his actions alone need to show the depths of his virtue. So you could have him going through all sorts of situations where you need to hire an actor with a lot of depth and a lot of breadth. But essentially, they would, how do I say it? How he responds to injury, when he selflessly puts his life on the line for somebody else. All of his emotions. He just has to be able to be an all-star actor who can get by without saying a word. But the problem is that most writers in Hollywood, if they got this job, they would want to show how witty they are. They would want to show like, I could put the right words in Link's mouth, blah, blah. But actually, the harder thing to do is to make basically a silent movie, write that script. That is how you know you're a good writer. If he doesn't need to say a word and you have the audience grasping their chair, their movie theaters, they're sitting there, they got rapt attention and they want to see everything that he does as you follow Link through the jungle, as you follow him through the desert, as he takes on, various Gleeoks or whatever he's taking on, and he doesn't need to say a word. Everything is on his face. And that's how you would make a universal film, where everybody just resonates with what his facial expressions, his body language, what he's doing, how he's reacting, the pure emotion that is, resonating off his being, with the music all swirling around, just like the video games. That's what I would do. If I were the one who was tasked with writing the Zelda script, he would barely say a word. It would be just like the video games. But it would be a really hard job, but it would be a really rewarding job, because if you nailed it, it would be awesome. But I think for the most part, there's a high probability that this ends up nicht so good. Eric Canetti, thanks for tuning in. Eric, I was talking about you earlier. How like all these people recognize you. They're just gravitating to the table. They're like, Eric Canetti. And it was cool to watch, seeing all these people just kind of come up to the table and they got their stuff and they want you to sign their books and all of that. Critical enjoyer, great idea, Doug, but I still think Zelda, Ganon, etc. need to have dialogue. No, Zelda could have dialogue. All their characters could have dialogue. She wouldn't appear in the movie too much to begin with, but Link would not have the dialogue, or almost nothing. So the other characters, here and there, you would have individuals that would speak to Link, but he is the silent warrior that he just gets his job and he gets it done. He doesn't have to say anything. He's just the silent hero. He's like, the Clint Eastwood type character who he doesn't need to say much. He's just the good guy. And he's not in a spaghetti Western, but he's in a Zelda movie, but essentially plays very much that role where if he speaks, it's going to have an impact, but for the most part, he doesn't say anything. So yeah, the other characters can definitely speak, but Link, I don't want him to barely say anything. And I don't want him to say, "Excuse me, princess." People were all torturing me with the old Nintendo cartoon Zelda from that. I don't even know if that was didn't they have like Captain N, the Game Master, and they had the Mario cartoon, then they had the Zelda cartoon. But the Zelda cartoon was so cheesy and bad, and they had that catchphrase, the "Excuse me, princess." So bad. Let's see. What era Zelda? Yeah, that's a good question about what era you would go with. Maybe you would just go with the original game. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Tears of the Kingdom was the most recent one, but they could find some sort of amalgamation. All you need is there's certain elements to a Zelda game that just make it a Zelda game that you basically have to have those things in there. And if you don't, it gets weird really, really quick. But yeah, so as long as you follow the general blueprint for having Link save Hyrule and Zelda, and you got Ganon, and you got all the various creatures and three-headed dragons and some sort of Triforce, and maybe you got Wizrobes in there. Maybe you got likes in there. I don't know. Mr. Grohovac says, yes, Captain N, the Game Master. So anyway, Eric, real quick to you. I got Arc Athena 4 yesterday in the mail. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. It was last night, and I was doing some other stuff, and then I had a very early meeting today with some people that was very interesting. We'll see how that goes. I might start writing again. We'll see. But anyway, check out Arc Athena 4. It is now live on the Iconic Comics website. You can get it right away. Check out Butch Killigan. I accidentally shut that window down. And check out Black Hops Volume 6 and Omnibus 2. Mr. Grohovac's talking about, oh yeah, Simon Belmont. That's the thing is, Nintendo has a lot of properties where, like, theoretically, you can make really cool movies, you can make really cool games, but for the most part, for whatever reason, Hollywood has done a horrible job converting video game properties into movies. Although I heard that the Mario movie with Chris Pratt, I heard it was pretty good. So I didn't see it. I haven't gone to the movies in a long time. And actually the Ghostbusters trailer yesterday, I saw that. Let's see. So the Ghostbusters trailer was interesting in that. Where is it? They got Patton Oswalt in it. Why would you have Patton Oswalt in this stupid? Let's see. Critical Enjoyer. Metroid would be amazing if done right. Yeah, Metroid is another one where it's just like, dude. Now a lot of these things, like if they did like anime, like you could do really cool stuff with that. I would basically just trust a lot of the video game properties to the Japanese to do it right. All right, where's Patton? He's got to show up one of these places. Unless it was in the beginning. All right. Come on. All right. Bill Murray. That's kind of cool. Maybe he was. I know I saw Patton in there somewhere. No. All right. I just honestly think that he is not a funny man. I don't know if I've ever seen him actually be funny. He's just kind of annoying. And I don't understand. He must have some friends in really high places because I don't think he's that talented. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I know that he had some takes on Star Wars many, many years ago that were somewhat mildly amusing. But yeah. Doug, what are your top 3 favorite pies? That's an interesting question. I don't know. Apple pie, cherry pie, and blueberry. I don't know. I'm not a huge pie guy. I used to eat the Hostess pies when I was a kid, and I did like the lemon Hostess pie when I was a kid, but how do I say it? It wasn't too long ago that I basically tried them. I don't know if like the equivalent of them, and it was way too much. I was like, how did I eat these as a kid? I took 2 bites of it, and it was so sweet and so sugary that I was like, I can't eat this. This is ridiculous. Let's see, Mr. Grahovac, but he wrote for Mad TV. Yeah, Mad TV. I watched it here and there, like little bits and pieces as a kid. I don't know. Maybe he was funnier when he was younger, and then as he just got older and more political, he just became kind of like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert and all of those guys. When they were like first start out, you can tell that they're like whip snapping, sharp, whatever. Even if they're like more liberal guys. But then over the course of time, you can see them getting more and more and more bitter and jaded, and something changes in them where like they're not even funny anymore. They're just like angry old men. And like if this guy on Twitter, every time he turns up, he's just saying like really nasty stuff to people. I don't know, he just seems like a man who's not happy at all. Sometimes he puts out the like veneer that he is happy, but he does not seem like a happy man. I don't get happy vibes from him at all. No, I don't know. So I would be open to seeing this movie, but I would hope that he has a very limited role. I just can't stand him. I don't know. Every time just looking at him just kind of irritates me. So who knows? All right. Reacher season 2 coming December 15th. I didn't watch season 1, but apparently a lot of people like it. I actually can't I don't really watch movies these days. I wanted to watch the new Mission Impossible. I didn't even get to see that. I will watch the new Stranger Things whenever that comes out, whenever the last season is around. I'll check that out. And yeah, I don't know. I've just been in my own little world doing research for Soul Finder and reading books and stuff like that. But I haven't really been doing a whole lot of movies and television shows these days. So anyway, I think that's about it for now. I basically said the things that I have to say. I will try and be back in about a week or so with any new news that comes up. Just thanks for tuning in. Check out Black Hops. Check out Butch Killigan. Check out Arc Athena. And all right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks again for spreading the word about Iconic Comics. Really appreciate it. See ya.